to select the songs that they have.
Whatever you want to do, it's very happy. Thank you for doing this. Really appreciate it.
So this first song is about Lord Krishna, glory to Lord Krishna, and then he had, there are several names for him. Gopal is one, Hari is another. So it's really chanting of Lord Krishna. बिस्किए माता जशोदा ब्रिज नारी के माता जशोदा ब्रिज नारी के माखन चोरी जय दीन दयाल हरि हे कृष्ण गोपाल हरि जय दीन दयाल हरि तुम करता तुम ही कारण है तुम करता तुम ही कारण है अनुमंताल हरि जय दीन दयाल हरि हे कृष्ण गोपाल हरि जय दीन दयाल हरि जय दीन दयाल हरि जय दीन दयाल हरि I will sing a song in Bengali.
Sure.
Okay.
It's your show. Whatever you want to do.
So this is a song written by the poet Rabindranath Tagore. So this is in Bengali. That's where he wrote his literature, his poetries, and everything else. So Rabindranath Tagore was his spiritual thinking were rooted in Veda and Vedanta. However, his thoughts are very non-denominational. They are not restricted to any particular faith or specific gods or goddesses. Right? So they're very deeply spiritual, but at the same time they're very generic, for lack of any better term. Right? So I will sing a song that is very beautiful, and it's the meaning of the song is, it says, "Amar hiyar majhe lukiye chile dekhte ami paini." So you are hidden in my heart. So I didn't see you. Bahir pane chok melechi, amar hridoy pane chaini. I have looked at outside, but I haven't looked inside me. Then it goes, আমার সকল ভালোবাসায় সকল আঘাত সকল আশায় তুমি ছিলে আমার কাছে তোমার কাছে যাইনি. That means in all my love, in all my hopes, you were always with me, but I didn't come to you. তুমি মোর আনন্দ হয়েছিলে আমার খেলায়, আনন্দে তাই ভুলেছিলেন কেটেছে দিন খেলায়. Means in my place, you were the ananda, meaning you were the joy. You brought the joy in my ananda, but I was so immersed in my joy or in my fun that I forgot about you. গোপন রহি গভীর প্রাণে আমার দুঃখ সুখের গানে সুর দিয়েছ তুমি আমি তোমার গান তো গাইনি. So deep in my heart, I have sang my songs of sukh and dukh, means happiness and sorrow. But I didn't sing your song. But you have given me the melody, but I didn't sing your song. So that's what this song is. দেখতে আমি পাইনি তোমায় দেখতে আমি পাইনি আমার হিয়ার মাঝে লুকিয়েছিলে বাহির পানে চোখ মেলেছি বাহির পানে, আমার হৃদয় পানে চাই আমার হিয়ার মাঝে লুকিয়েছিলে। আমার সকল ভালোবাসায়, সকল আঘাত, সকল আশায়, আমার সকল ভালোবাসায়, সকল আঘাত, সকল আশায় তুমি ছিলে, আমার কাছে তুমি ছিলে। আমি তোমার কাছে যাইনি, আমার হিয়ার মাঝে লুকিয়েছিলে। তুমি মোর আনন্দ হয়ে ছিলে আমার খেলায়, তুমি মোর আনন্দ হয়ে ছিলে আমার খেলায়। আনন্দে তাই ভুলেছিলেন, আনন্দে তাই ভুলেছিলেন, কেটেছে দিন হেলায়। তুমি মোর আনন্দ হয়ে ছিলে আমার খেলায়, মোর আনন্দ হয়ে ছিলে আমার খেলায়। আনন্দে তাই ভুলেছিলেন, আনন্দে তাই ভুলেছিলেন, কেটেছে দিন হেলায়। গোপন রোগী গভীর প্রাণে আমার দুঃখ সুখের গানে, গোপন রোগী গভীর প্রাণে আমার দুঃখ সুখের গানে সুর দিয়েছ তুমি। আমি তোমার গান তো গাইনি, আমার হিয়ার মাঝে লুকিয়েছিলে। দেখতে আমি পাইনি, তোমায় দেখতে আমি পাইনি, আমার হিয়ার মাঝে লুকিয়েছিলে। So this song is about glory to Lord Rama. So this is called Jai Raghunandan. Raghunandan means the son of the Raghu family. Right? So that is Rama, Lord Rama. So that's the glory to Lord Rama. रघुनंदन जय सिया राम, जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम। हे दुख भंजन तुम्हें प्रणाम, हे दुख भंजन तुम्हें प्रणाम। जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम, जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम। हे दुख भंजन तुम्हें प्रणाम, हे दुख भंजन तुम्हें प्रणाम। जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम। भात के परमेश्वर, भात के परमेश्वर, स्नेह तुम्हें सिखलाए। नर नारी के प्रेम की ज्योति, नर नारी के प्रेम की ज्योति, जग में तुम्हें जलाते। ओ नैया के केवलहारे, ओ नैया के केवलहारे, जपो मैं तुम्हारो नाम। जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम, जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम। हे दुख भंजन तुम्हें प्रणाम, हे दुख भंजन तुम्हें प्रणाम। जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम। तुम्हें दया के सागर प्रभु जी, तुम्हें दया के सागर प्रभु जी, तुम्हें पालनहारे। तुम्हें दया के सागर प्रभु जी, तुम्हें पालनहारे। चैन तुम्हीं से पाएंगे, चैन तुम्हीं से पाएंगे। मनुआ साज सवारे, जो भी तुम्हारी आस लगाए, जो भी तुम्हारी आस लगाए, बने उसी के पास। जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम, जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम। हे दुख भंजन तुम्हें प्रणाम, हे दुख भंजन तुम्हें प्रणाम। जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम, जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम।
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'll trade chairs with you. It's okay. Just we'll figure it later. It's a tricky one.
Thank you.
Do you want yours?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Just get water real quick. me or it's pretty dry now. Okay. It's so wonderful to see everybody. Thank you for coming. We'll start with our chant. Om Sato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityur Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness into light. Lead us from death to mortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Okay, what a glorious day it is. And we're very, very honored. As you know, it's a tradition on Memorial Day weekend at the Vedanta Society that started with Swami Prabhupada, I think. Perhaps it was even earlier than that. But they dedicate this weekend to the reading of Swami Vivekananda's complete works. So some of you guys have read nicely. Thank you so much for reading, because we get assigned by Swami Sarvadevanandaji these pages. So all of the centers together then read all the whole complete works together. And so we've done a really great job. We had 16 people from our center reading, which is really like a record breaker. We haven't had that many people read for many reasons, but thank you so much. So I thought we would dedicate this service to Swami Vivekananda. And there's so many things and dynamic aspects of Swamiji that I'm sure all of you who have really dived into Swamiji, he has so many facets, and there's so much that he wrote himself. So it's really like Sri Ramakrishna never wrote anything himself. It was all what he said, and it was written down and given to us in these beautiful books we have, Commemorating, and some of the Sri Ramakrishna, the great master, was written by one of the monastic disciples. So the first thing that comes to me when I think about this special day for Swamiji, I'm blessed to be able to sit right next to the portrait of Swamiji, the real Swamiji, is that Sri Ramakrishna himself said that Narendra, Swami Vivekananda, was an incarnation of Shiva. And so it's kind of an interesting thing when you really dive into this whole concept. And so we'll have to talk a little bit, of course, of what is Shiva, who is Shiva, or what does that represent? What kind of ideal is that? And how does that really work? So I thought I would read, I pulled up some things on the computer because it's a little easier than me reading every book written about Swamiji. But I thought I'd give you a little bit of a background as an abbreviation, and then we'll read from some different writings about commentary on Swamiji. And then we'll talk a bit about what Swamiji said himself, which is really cool. And there's this book, by the way, is a really wonderful. I don't know if any of you guys have read it. I think most of you must have. It's Ramakrishna and his disciples. And we'll probably do a reading of it together as a group here shortly, because for those Western disciples, especially who don't have any background on Swamiji or Ramakrishna, Hinduism perhaps, they're not really familiar with the whole concept, Sanatana Dharma. And so this is really wonderful. But even if you're dyed in the wool Hindu in all your life, it's just, there's so much there. But it was written by a Westerner, Christopher Isherwood, who was very devout and a beautiful writer in his own right, a very famous writer. And it's well written. It's an easy read. You can read it very nicely. And so I thought we could read more of that, because there's that kind of such deep information in there. First of Sri Ramakrishna and Shardama, and then of all the disciples, starting with Swami Vivekananda. Okay, so let's read. This isn't from there. We will read something from there, but this is a nice overview of Swami Vivekananda. So Swami Vivekananda was born on 12th January 1863 in Calcutta. His mother, Bhuvaneshwari Devi Datta, mother of Vivekananda, was a pious woman and a worshipper of Shiva. She prayed to Shiva for a son and requested a relative to offer worship at Varanasi and at Varanasi. Before the birth of Narendranath, she reportedly saw Shiva in her dream. When Narendranath was born, she considered the child as a blessing of Shiva and suggested to name him Virashwar, which is one of the names of Shiva. If I butcher any of these these names, please forgive me and let me know what I should be saying. Anyways, even though I've heard these things many times, sometimes being a Westerner, we fall short. So young Nareen was very restless and naughty. And if you think about, there's kind of hints about Krishna also in the same way, stealing butter and all these things. It seems to be a trait in very strong spiritual beings, especially men and boys, that they're also very naughty in childhood. Even Vivekanadaji was very willful, shall we say. There's stories of him being very willful. So his parents used to face difficulties controlling him. Bhuvaneshwari Devi sometimes used to say, I prayed to Shiva for a son, and he has sent me one of his demons. That's really sweet. But she found out a unique way to calm his little down. A little one down. I don't know. Must be a mistake. She used to pour water on little Narendranath's head and recite the name of Shiva in front of the altar that she had, and it had magical effects. She said. From childhood, Narendranath had been a worshipper of Shiva. In childhood, Narendranath used to practice meditation before the image or idol of Shiva. In adulthood, he wrote several poems and prose articles dedicated to Shiva, such as a hymn to Shiva, a dance of Shiva, Shiva's demon, Shiva in ecstasy, and so you can look these up. It's in all the complete works. You can find all of these too. In 1898, Swami Vivekananda visited Amarnath, and this is later in his life, after he had returned to India from America. Later, he told his disciple, since visiting Amarnath, I feel as if Shiva is sitting on my head for 24 hours and would not come down. Swami Vivekananda told, a rich man had a garden and 2 gardeners. One of these gardeners was very lazy and did not work. But when the owner came to the garden, the lazy man would get up and fold his arms and say, how beautiful is the face of my master, and dance before him. The other gardener would not talk much, but he would work hard and produce all sorts of fruits and vegetables, which he would carry on his head to his master, who lived a long way off. Of these 2 gardeners, which would be more beloved by his master? Shiva is that master, and this world is his garden, and there are 2 sorts of gardeners here. One who is lazy, hypocritical and does nothing, only talking about Shiva's beautiful eyes, nose, and other features. And the other is who is taking care of Shiva's children and all that are weak and poor and weak, all animals and all his creation. Which of these would be more beloved by Shiva? Certainly that he that serves his children, he who wants must serve all his he who wants to serve Shiva must serve his children, must serve all creatures in that world first. It is said that in the Shastras, there are those who serve, the servants of God are his greatest servants. You will bear this in mind. Among the Shaivas, another dualistic sect, the story is told of a devotee by the name of Gantakarna, or the bell-eared, who was so devout a worshipper of Shiva that he did not wish even to hear the name of any other deity. So he wore 2 bells tied to his ears in order to drown the sound of any voice uttering any divine name. On account of his intense devotion to Shiva, the latter wanted to teach him that there was no difference between Shiva and Vishnu. So he appeared before him as half Vishnu and half Shiva. At that moment, the devotee was waving incense before him. But so great was his bigotry of Chandrakarna that when he saw the fragrance of the incense entering the nostril of Vishnu, he thrust his finger in it to prevent the god from enjoying the sweet smell. At one time in India, representatives of different sects met together and began to dispute. One said that only God was Shiva, the other said the only God was Vishnu, and so on. And there was no end to their discussion. A sage was passing that way and was invited by the disputants to decide the matter. He first asked the man who was claiming Shiva was the greatest god, have you seen Shiva? Are you acquainted with him? If not, how do you know he's the greatest god? Then turning to the worshipper of Vishnu, he asked, "Have you seen Vishnu?" And after taking this question to all of them, he found out that not one of them knew anything about God. That was why they were disputing so much. For had they really known, they would not have argued. When a jar is being filled with water, it makes noise. But when it is full, there is no noise. So the very fact of this disputations and fighting amongst sects shows that they do not know anything about religion. Religion to them is a mere mass of frothy words to be written in books, each one, printing, each one of them with his big book to make it as massive as possible, stealing his materials from every book he can lay his hands upon and never acknowledging his indebtedness. Then he launches his book to the world and adding to the disturbance that is already existing there. He who sees Shiva in the poor, in the weak, and in the diseased really worships Shiva. And if he sees Shiva only in the image in his worship, but he is but preliminary. He who has served and helped one poor man seeking Shiva in him without thinking of his caste or his creed or race or anything, to him Shiva is more pleased than any man who has seen him only in temples. So this idea of God in every form, of course, is the very foundation of Sri Ramakrishna's philosophy. To me, honestly, one of the things that I really adore about Sri Ramakrishna is that he showed the way and set down the framework of how we can really do that. Not only just respect somebody else's religion and put up with it, shall we say, but really see the value that, as it's said here, if you really know God, if you don't know God, you're going to argue with everybody and say that yours is the best way. And it's a sure bet that if they're doing that such a thing, then they don't know anything about God. But one who is dancing in joy at all the names of God, the Lord is sweet from all throats and all languages. And so this is one of the beauties of the Ramakrishna tradition, is that it really respects all of the paths to God. And let me make sure I have the most important things. I printed it out. Yeah, I have it here. So this is some of the this is also just some of the basics of what Swami Vivekananda taught, and this is really the basis of our order. And by the way, when Swami Vivekananda first started preaching this, Sri Ramakrishna did, he said it first, but a lot of his brother disciples really thought he was going astray when he was focusing so much on social work and helping the poor, building hospitals and universities. As you know, the order, the Vedanta Ramakrishna order, has tremendous amount of this kind of work around the world. And it's really beautiful. And they thought that he was really going in the wrong direction, that they should be just, pious and holy and all these kind of things, even some of the other disciples. And they had some misunderstandings for a while, but then they finally came to this way of seeing things. You couldn't argue with Swami Vivekananda. It doesn't work well. He's definitely a really strong Shiva. So Swami Vivekananda taught that true worship of Shiva means seeing the divine in all beings rather than just in a temple. He emphasized that serving the poor, weak, and diseased is the highest form of spiritual practice, merging devotion with practical compassion. The essence of worship, Jiva is Shiva. Vivekananda famously declared that the gist of all worship is to be pure and to do good to others. He asserted that if a person sees Shiva only in the stone image or temple, their worship is merely preliminary. The living God, he who serves one poor man, seeing Shiva in him without regard to caste, creed, race, pleases God far more than he who only sees the temples. Vivekananda taught that external worship is merely a symbol of internal worship. Unless a devotee is pure in both body and mind, temple worship is useless. He stated, he who has more of this unselfishness is more spiritual and nearer to Shiva. Shiva is the supreme yogi. Vivekananda revered Shiva as the ultimate embodiment of renunciation, meditation, and cosmic balance. He viewed Shiva not merely as a mythological figure, but as the supreme, all-pervasive consciousness residing in the heart of every being. explore these core Vedantic concepts through the profound Swami Vivekananda teachings. Here's what I was bringing up. Swami Vivekananda is widely regarded by followers and spiritual scholars as an incarnation of Shiva. The association encompasses both biographical parallels, like his mother's premonition and his deep affinity for meditation, and his core teachings of seeing God in all humanity. And this was his mother had a dream, as we talked about before in other talks. Before his birth, his mother, Bhuvaneshwari Devi, reportedly dreamt of Lord Shiva emerging from a deep meditation to take the form of a male child. And Sri Ramakrishna's proclamation, I'll read about that from this other book. Because Shiva is the ultimate yogi, destroyer of ignorance, and patron of monks, Vivekananda's mission is to clear spiritual darkness, mirrors the archetypical qualities of the deity. And it talks about his trip to Amarnath. During a visit to Amarnath, basically Vivekananda came face to face with Shiva, shall we say, and he granted him the boon of choosing the time of his own death, his own leaving the body there in Amarnath. And he said, I thought the ice lingam was Shiva himself, he later expressed. So this is really interesting. Let's talk a little bit about the Amarnath trip, because it was seminal in Swamiji's basically transformation. What Swami, I'll talk about, Sri Ramakrishna said that when Swami Vivekananda knows his identity, his true identity, he'll leave his body by the will of act of supreme will and yoga. He was that powerful. And they had to have blinders, these great ones, to be able to even exist, in a sense, here in this world, because it's not their natural place to be. But there is something really amazing about this, that Swami Vivekananda didn't talk about this world. It was actually in my readings today, yesterday when I was reading. So what Swami Vivekananda did say was that it's thought that this world is a very low place, that we're kind of stuck here, we're struggling to be here, and all these types of things. And the great ones, of course, have to really bring their mind down to the vibrations of this world, in a sense, just to keep a body going, because as soon as they know their true identity, their bodies basically disappears. So even Sri Ramakrishna used to ask for a glass of water or some jalipis, sweets, just so he would keep his mind to this world. But what Swami Vivekananda said is very, very profound, and he's pretty much the only one. He said, this is the only place you will find a total mukti, total liberation is here in this world. He said, even the gods and angels have to come here to become liberated. Can you imagine? So he said, this actually is a great boon to have a human physical body here, and then also to have the desire for liberation, to have great teachings around you, and then finally a great guru who can bring you to the highest level. Because only here are all the different types of souls mixed together. On all the other planes, they're all divided by vibration. And so the higher beings are in a certain zone of vibration, and the beings that have different, maybe not so pure desires, so we say, are in lower heavens, and they are divided because of vibration of that area. The lower thoughts of the vibrations of those souls in those regions keep them from the higher regions, from the light regions. And so you're basically with people that are similar in vibration to you. So you're not bringing any conflict within your life. You're not having anything to necessarily overcome like we do here. I mean, look at what's happening here in this world. Sometimes it's horrifying. But that is exactly why this is the perfect place to come if you really want to be liberated. Because confronting that and overcoming all these types of experiences is what we need to do. And so Swami Vivekananda said even the angels and the gods have to come here and take on a human birth to get liberation. It's a really amazing thought, isn't it? That this is such a place. So it really makes you appreciate that where we are now, the fact that we're here at the feet of the great masters, we have such beautiful teachings, and that we really have a golden opportunity to overcome these things. And I'll dive a little bit into what Shiva is, because some of you guys may not really have a clear understanding of Shiva, but this one is kind of, we're just going to give some ideas of exactly what Shiva's nature is. But this is the story of Sri Ramakrishna. It's on a later occasion, Ramakrishna told some of his other disciples, that day after Naren had lost consciousness of his present individuality. Now this is when he actually touched Swami Vivekananda in the Dakshineswar temple. He lost his outer consciousness and his inner consciousness shone forth. And it was basically Narayana, it was the highest divinity expressed. And Sri Ramakrishna actually asked him what his mission was, where he come from, all these kind of questions. And so then Sri Krishna said, that day, after Naren had lost consciousness of his present individuality, I asked him many questions, such as who he really was, where he had come from, how long he would stay in this world, and so forth. I made him able to enter into his innermost being and find the answers to my questions there. These answers confirm what I had already learned about him in visions. It is forbidden to tell all these things, but I can tell you that on the day when he knows who he really is, he will no longer remain in this world. With a strong effort of will, he will immediately give up his body through the power of yoga. Naren is a great soul, perfect in meditation. Ramakrishna also described a vision. This is beautiful. This is such a beautiful story. One of those which, as he said, were confirmed by the answers of Naren when he had given him. His mind, while in samadhi, this is Ramakrishna's, had ascended through the world of gross matter into the subtle world of ideas, the causal world, and thence to what is described as the fence made of light, which separates the visible from the indivisible. Beyond this fence, even the gods and goddesses could not penetrate, because all form ceased there. So think about this. And we'll talk a little bit about this because it shows the ideal of what Shiva really represents. That everything, there's a huge barrier for a good reason. Because once you pass that barrier, all individuality is lost. And for most of us, here, we're getting a call from Pranabji, and you guys can see Kalima as a blessing when we do this. Jai Ma, Pranabji. Listen, I'm going to hand the phone to all of the devotees here so they can see Ma, okay? We have our group here, Pranabji. This is Pranab Gosha. He's one of the priests at the Kali Temple in Dakshineswar. It's a live video. You can pass the phone to everybody. This is a live video feed from Dakshineswar Kali Temple. Wow. It's very, very sacred. It's usually not, it's never allowed. This is very special. So that's perfect timing that you called for this. So happy. And then whoever gets the phone last can keep it. And you can show it on the, Mina, if you want to, you can show it on the camera here or.
Other Parang.
Oh, yeah. And if any of you are going to go to, I think you go often, I'll give you Pranabji's contact information and you can see him. He'll take you to see him. Do you want to, here, give it to me real quick and then I'll hand it to you. Jai Ma Pranabji. So we'll give darshan to those in the studio audience. I mean, in the online here. This is Kali Ma and the Dakshineswar Kali Temple, everybody. So you have Ma's darshan. So beautiful, so beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Pranabji. It's so kind. Listen, I'm going to hand it to Mina, or I can give it to you, or whoever you guys can keep on watching it until it ends up.
You want it?
And then I'll continue our talk for those online. So this is very profound, and we're going to go into it a little more when we talk about Shiva. But this is really profound. So even the gods can't pass this division of form and formlessness. It's a very, very, very subtle and important understanding for those who are ready for it. Beyond that fence, even the gods and goddesses could not penetrate because all forms ceased there. Nevertheless, within this realm of the indivisible, Ramakrishna saw 7 sages whose body were made only of the light of pure consciousness. These sages sat in samadhi, and their greatness exceeded the greatness of all gods. As Ramakrishna watched, he saw something shape itself out of the undifferentiated light, and this something took the form of a child. The child came down to one of the sages, threw its arms around his neck, and tried to rouse him from his samadhi. The sage woke at last. Seeing the child, his face became bright with delight, and Ramakrishna knew that they were eternal companions. I am going down there, the child said to the sage, and you must come with me. The sage did not answer, but his eyes expressed his joyful agreement. He went into samadhi again, and then Ramakrishna saw a part of him come down to earth in the form of a bright light. And Ramakrishna said, after telling this to his disciples, hardly had I set eyes on Nareen for the first time when I knew that he was this sage. When they questioned Ramakrishna further, he admitted that the child of division had been himself. I have already explained in chapter 8 the idea of the eternal companion. So we won't go in, we'll stop there with the reading, but I'll give this as some basis for what we're going to describe about Shiva. So the first thing is that they say that there are, when a great master comes to this earth, they bring with them certain very high beings to help them in their mission in this planet or whichever place that they are. And these are eternal companions, it's like a spiritual family. Even those who are enlightened and even those who are liberated, they usually have, with them great souls. Like this is described as this eternal companion of Sri Ramakrishna. So whenever Ramakrishna goes and has something to do as an incarnation, he'll bring Nareen with him. He did countless things, and all the disciples. That's why Ramananda also is considered an eternal companion, his eternal child, spiritual child. But this idea of this fence, let's try to figure out what Shiva is, and then this could help understand the whole point of referencing Swami Vivekananda as Shiva. So if you look at Shiva and also Kali Ma, they give some very interesting hints about the nature. The true Shiva is that lingam. That lingam is the actual inner form of Shiva, the infinite light. And it's beautiful that we got gifted that just some weeks ago. We're really blessed. And of course, we respect it and worship it, so which is really important. But if you look at the Kali Ma, if you see Kali is dancing the dance of creation, and under him is, hiding prostrate, is a form of Romeo, which is Shiva. And that just shows the nature of Shiva is the substratum of all creation, the eternal awareness, the eternal infinite consciousness that is always continuing and never changing. So it's inactive in the sense of vibration and creation. And Ma is dancing creation. So the wall, this wall of light, is that which separates Shiva from Shakti. Now this is something that's really profound, because if you think about what Shakti is, it's everything of creation that you can conceive of. Every heaven, every God, ourselves, our bodies, our own consciousness, our separate individual consciousness is Shakti. That's all part of this vibration that's on the other side of the fence, shall we say. So to get on this side of the fence really is those who can go beyond their individual personality, their individual sense of separateness, shall we say. So to be able to go beyond that fence is a very big vibrational barrier. So those who are not capable of doing it or not ready, it would destroy their individuality if it was done too soon. So you really see this as a beautiful spiritual paradigm. And so to be able to really, truly worship Shiva in without form, without this separation, it's a very profound thought. Ramana Maharshi used to describe it very well. One of the things I love about Ramana is that he describes the state we're talking about with as much simplicity and precision as anybody I've ever heard. Because basically, he was saying that the I, which is the ankara, the separate jiva, comes first. That I thought comes before Om. Om is all of creation. So he was saying that that separateness, that we are the illusion of separateness, shall we say, this false separate personality so that we can have some kind of expression, is Shakti, is Ma. And so that I and us that we think are separate is actually created first, and then all of the world is after that. Because you have to have a separate individuality to have a world. He said, when you don't have a separate individuality anymore, you're not having a sense of the world, a separate world. These are very profound thoughts, but also really important ones, because otherwise it's just a jumble of mess. So if you're talking about the real Shiva, the eternal Shiva, and I've got a crystal Shiva from the Himalayas up in Lingam, Shiva Lingam, it's blessed by one of Shankara's, Shankaracharya's in Haripurapura. The energy is very, very powerful to go through that barrier, and you can't take yourself with it. So everything that is separate, everything that is form, every God, every conception of God, a separate God, that's all the vibration of Om. That's all the projection, shall we say. So even the most profound thoughts are still part of the separateness. Now, what Sri Ramakrishna said too is that once somebody has this illumination and this realization that their separate individuality is mere illusion, then you can have an individuality that is one of jnana, individuality of jnana or bhakti, a pure personality. And that's what they talk about Krishna, is the divine personality. So these are divine personalities that are perfected. And so the incarnations have this ability to be on the fence, on the other side of the fence also. But it's really, really rare. It's not something that any of us probably can aspire to anytime soon. But that is actually our nature. So what Ramana said, which is kind of neat, is that you don't think of it that maybe you can't do it for a lifetime. Because he said, once you realize the truth, all of those things are gone. And that individuality, you go beyond it, and you go with that which is eternal. It's not your body, it's not your mind, it's not the emotions, it's not any of the cosmic principles. It's not even ankara, it's not even that I. That I is something that you see, it's just, you go into it, and you go behind and realize it. He said, you realize that it is not true. There's no reality to it. There's no substance to this I. So it's very interesting if you think about this. So these are the true Shiva. This isn't just like Swami Vivekananda talks about going into the temple and worshiping a form of Shiva. There's no understanding there. There's no real depth. And it doesn't mean anything to you. It doesn't transform you in any way. So what's beautiful about this is that, and Swami Vivekanadaji used to say that the ideal of Advaita Vedanta is to remove suffering without the possibility of its reoccurrence. That it's never possible. That's what he said is the ideal of Vedanta. And so this is only possible with the understanding of what Shiva really is, because otherwise, everything you're going to experience is just a cycle of creation. And what Sri Ramakrishna talked about, that even the punya, even these great boons of living such a perfect life, and you get all these great experiences in subtle worlds, and they have a time limit. They come and go because it's still part of projection. It's part of the illusion. It's light and dark shadows that constantly move and remove and are created and destroyed, just like the three gunas. The only way to be beyond all of this, and all of that, if you're experiencing or attached to any of it, is suffering. Even beautiful experiences can create suffering because you get attached to them, and they're sooner or later going to be gone. There's no such thing as this eternal heaven with golden harps and flying around. It's just projection. I mean, encasing the soul in that separate reality would be terminal. I mean, it's like taking the worst punishment and making you stay in this illusion of separateness. So anything you can think of as that separateness is really illusion. It doesn't have any long-lasting benefits for you to really satisfy you and remove your pain and suffering. The only thing is to remove the wrong conception of who we are and what our reality is as us. That is the only way we're going to see any true cessation of all possibility of suffering. So this is the ideal of what we're talking about in Vedanta, in Vedanta and Advaita Vedanta. It's very, very profound. Now, it's not for everyone in this lifetime to dive into that situation because it's very disconcerting. We talked about this before. There's a cycle of yugas, and Sri Yukteswar talks about this extensively in his Science of Religion. This is Yogananda's guru. And he said in this world, he called it a 24,000 year cycle of this birth of the Treta Yuga, the highest golden age, was at 10,500 BC most recently. And then we had lower and lower ages to the bottom of the Kali Yuga. And that was it's 24,000, so it's 12,000 years as it descended to the lowest state, which was 499 AD. And then from there, there's another 12,000 years going up to the highest ages. Now, in the highest of high ages, basically there was no real need for this kind of form of religion, because the world as a whole, in most cases, you can just put it there. Thank you, Chet. The world as a whole understands this ideal that we're talking about, this reality of who they are. So it's the masses of this world are more or less enlightened. It's a very high spiritual age. So even to write books, it's all part of their being. There wasn't such a need for books. They're symbols. They built different things that are from that high age, and you can see them built out these massive granite boulders and things. There's some very profound things encased in their understandings, realizations, and so on. Then as it went down lower and lower, they say that Krishna was in the instead of the Treta Yuga there was Treta. See this gold. My brain is just not working like it used to. It'll come to me. But there's the Silver Age that is more or less from was around 6,000 BC to 3,000 BC was this age of Krishna. And then you had Dwapara Yuga, which is strangely enough our Yuga where we are now. And then at the bottom is the Kali Yuga. And mankind, as the descending cycle goes, mankind in general, not the great ones, not the enlightened beings or the teachers, but us, I guess, we lose more of our understanding of the final subtle and spiritual truths. And so they had to create more, that's where things like writing down some of the scriptures, things would become possible for that because there wasn't need for them in the higher ages. So a lot of these things were written down. And then in some of the lower ages, they were messed up. Their misunderstanding of the truth got formed in certain religions. And at the bottom, at 499, if you think about it, all the religions that we have now were formed around that. You had Christianity, which they say 33 AD, but it really was formed at around 300 or 400 AD because of the Council of Constantinople. And that's where it was formed. They took the books of the Bible that they accepted and burned all the rest of them. And a lot of the rest of those books, by the way, were the profound and deeply internal books that came from the East. So that was kind of chopped off, and Rome kept the rest. And now as we contend Islam, Judaism even, because a lot of the temple was burned in 79 AD. And so the very old scriptures and all the old art traditions were destroyed, and the rabbinic Judaism started around 1000 AD, again in the Kali Yuga. So all the religions that we have today are really manufactured in the Kali Yuga of this time. And then as we go up, now we have the Dwapara Yuga, and they say it started in 1700, so on. You can see that science really started at there, where you started seeing the understanding of electricity and so on and so on. Newton and all these discoveries of the Earth before it was flat, right? To some people, it's still flat. Sadly, it's poor people. But as this goes up, now people will understand more and more the truth directly, and till it goes back to the highest level. So they're saying to the great ones tell us that each soul has a similar cycle, that we start off as pure awareness and understanding, And we start dabbling into this world, like there's incarnations where we observe, not bound up, but we saw as minerals, as elements, as different substances of creation through to more evolved, where we observe more in plants and so on, and more like, beings with motion, like fish first, and then animals and so on, until we have human man. And then, but what happens is you have the individuality of that soul more and more solidified. So where our Kali Yuga at the bottom is when we have a strong, separate individuality that is created from that nebulousness. And then from there, as we go up, you kind of go up slowly. You don't go from this to that, and you start trying to get to more freedom from those identifications and from that attachment to that separate individuality. And that towards the top, then you start to see where you can go beyond the gate. You start to see what's really talked about as Shiva, of this formlessness and this beyond this I, like what Ramana talks about. That's really only appropriate at a certain stage, like Ramana called them ripe devotees who came to him. And he could actually, there's stories of people like Sri Ramakrishna too, with a touch, he could awaken those, like Swami Vivekananda, because they were ripe. So they were at a stage where it was possible. If you would do that to a lower evolved being, you could really do damage because their psyche isn't solidified. Their individuality isn't solidified yet. Does that make sense? So for those beings, it's better to have this external worship, where there's different rites and rituals and all these things are better. And of course you have yoga, which is a very high level. A lot of people aren't ready for yoga either, true yoga. So this is the idea. So what's beautiful about Ramakrishna is he embraces all of this, where the cycles of where the beings are. He doesn't say only the ones who are ready to become enlightened are okay by me, or only this or only that one. But if you think about it, all the other religions and all the other ishtas are external reflections of God. Whichever one, they're all beautiful, and you can have complete devotion to that, to Rama, to Krishna, to Holy Mother, or any of Sri Ramakrishna. But eventually, you realize that isn't your God. That is a representation of Om, of a high representation of this individually expressed God. And then sooner or later, through that being, if your devotion is pure enough, you lose yourself in that image, and you start to go into the beyond your own I. Your I disappears, as they say, and that Ishta is the only thing that exists. And that's really wonderful, because then from there, you can get rid of all form. So this is the ideal with these separate worships. So I didn't want to, go too deep in this. But if we're talking about Shiva, you can really help. He is a very deep subject. But I thought maybe what we could do right before we finish now is we can sing Om Namah Shivaya. And this is done from Krishnadas. We stole this one from Krishnadas. And there's a refrain that there's Arunachala Shiva Namah Shivaya, Om Arunachala. I thought we'd do Swami Vivekananda Namah Shivaya, Vivekananda Shiva Om Namah Shivaya. I thought we'd put that in there too, in honor of Swamiji.
So one thing about this video is it's kind of uncanny to think that we are actually looking at the place as well as the idol that Sri Ramakrishna actually worshipped right there, right?
It's so beautiful.
Real, right?
It's so beautiful. Because he saw, if you think about what he talked about, he saw her as pure consciousness. He didn't say she was just standing there in form eternally. Now the form is reflected. He had some play with her afterwards, so she'd come out and, you'd see a young woman with dark hair, or a young girl with dark hair, and she'd be walking down the Ganges, or she'd be walking on the temple somewhere. But if you read about what he said when he, after that experience of when he first was doing the arti, he almost pulled the sword out of the temple and he almost cut his throat with it. He was so desperate to see Mom. But he didn't say, oh, this form. He saw her as divine consciousness. And everything was consciousness. The sill, the door sill, the sword he was going to kill himself with, the cat, of course, all the holy relics, but every part of creation he saw is Ma, the essence, the consciousness of Ma. So Ma, and of course, I mean, Vivekananda talks about in Swami Sri Ramakrishna, that Ma is the doorway to Shiva, because we're bound so much in hand and foot. We have to go to Ma somehow. And if that Ma is in place of Shiva, I mean, Krishna or Brahma, so be it. I mean, that's still Ma. As they said, part of Ma is all of these incarnations. So he talks about, and we did a talk about Sri Ramakrishna and a lot of the internal things, but we can actually read together. We could do this Ramakrishna and his disciples. It's all in there. It's beautiful. Every part of Ramakrishna's experience and his awakening, and meeting Todapuri. Then after that, which was really special. So yeah, it's just so sweet, because in Ramakrishna's world, there's everything. There's Hanuman. He wore his dhoti where he had a tail, and, of course, he was a handmaid of Krishna. He dressed up as a woman, to get and then Sita bequeathed her smile to him. It's so beautiful. There's so much. No matter what tradition you really embrace, he had a time when he was for 7 days he worshipped as a Muslim. As you know, he had a vision of Muhammad. He had a vision of Jesus. For 7 days, he just worshipped Jesus, because he had devotees that were Muslim and some devotees that were Christian. And he had a vision of Jesus in Pachpati. And they all merged into his own person. So, yeah, there's kind of a never-ending supply of inspiration from Sri Ramakrishna's teachings, because they are of all of the traditions. There's not just one, that is really sacred. And there's not one that's put above the other ones, if you think about it too. He doesn't say, oh, you can be a Christian and find God, but it's much easier if you worship Kali, It never says that. They're all equal. It depends on the ripeness of the soul and where they are in their progression in their cycle. So it's really neat. And the truth is too, as you go into the higher yugas, the higher ages, a lot of these forms of religion are necessary. You don't need images when you're really able to perceive things directly. But we're really kind of blinded, and our memories are cut out of us in a sense where we are now, because we're not remembering who we were, not remembering all these things. We don't have access to the inside. Like even Swami Vivekananda, Ramakrishna had to put him into that state where he could relay his own inner being, his deep inner being, because to be on this world, he had to kind of put himself in a blinder box, as they say. So okay, so let's try Om Namah Shivaya, and then we'll do some verses with Swami Vivekananda Shiva, Om Namah Shivaya. So that would be nice. Okay. And sing along with the book has the words. I don't know if you have one of the books. Can you give me one of the?
Which way? Page 17.
So when everybody sing, Om Namah Shankara Namah Shivaya. Girija Shankara Namah Shivaya. Shambho Shankara Namah Shivaya. Girija Shankara Namah Shivaya. Arunachala Shiva Namah Shivaya. Arunachala Shiva Namah Shivaya. Arunachala Shiva Namah Shivaya. Arunachala Shiva Namah Shivaya. Swami Vivekananda 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 Shiva Namah Shivaya. Om 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 Namah Shivaya. Alrighty. Jambho Shankara Namah Shivaya. Nija Shankara Namah Shivaya. Jambho Shankara Namah Shivaya. Nija Shankara Namah Shivaya. Swami Vivekananda Shiva 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 Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Swami Vivekananda Shiva 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 Namah Shivaya. Om 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 Namah Shivaya. Nice, maybe we can. All right, so just we'll end with Ramakrishna Sharanam. And again, thank you for checking for us. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Any Sunday you want to come, we do it every Sunday, so just let us know whatever your schedule is.
Sure.
We're so happy. And a few people called me, and one of them, they just got sick, sadly, so weren't able to come today, but they will be. And Renima too, from Sushi, and Jamie and Christine, they called. So hope they're feeling better. So Ramakrishna Sharanam, and then we'll be done. Oh, did you want to pass out the symbols and take one up later? Yeah, it's kind of more of a jam session, honestly. Just pass it around you. Take whatever you want. There's symbols on the bottom. On the bottom, I'm going to play all of that. So whichever one gets you most happy. No, the big one. You can take some of those bigger things out of there. Do you want them? Yeah, Vicky likes. She rocks the hardest. Prabhu Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Sharanye. Vipadi Kevalam, Vipadi Kevalam, Vipadi Kevalam, Sharanye. Vipadi Kevalam, Vipadi Kevalam, Vipadi Kevalam, Sharanye. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Sharanye. Prabhu Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Sharanye. Sharana Vetuham, Sharana Vetuham, Sharana Vetuham, Sharanye. Sharana Vetuham, Sharana Vetuham, Sharana Vetuham, Sharanye. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Sharanye. Prabhu Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Sharanye. Namo Shri Gurave, Namo Shri Gurave, Namo Shri Gurave, Namo Namo. Namo Shri Gurave, Namo Shri Gurave, Namo Shri Gurave, Namo Namo. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Sharanye. Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Sharanye. Ram Krishna Jaya Jaya 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 Ram Ram Krishna Jaya Jaya Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Sharanye. Prabhu Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Sharanye. Kevalam, Kripadi Kevalam, Kripadi Kevalam, Sharanye. Kripadi Kevalam, Kripadi Kevalam, Kripadi Kevalam, Sharanye. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Sharanye. Prabhu Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Sharanye. Sharana Vetuham, Sharana Vetuham, Sharana Vetuham, Mahade. Sharana Vetuham, Sharana Vetuham, Sharana Vetuham, Mahade. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Sharanye. Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Sharanye. Namo Shri Gurave, Namo Shri Gurave, Namo Shri Gurave, Namo Namo. Namo Shri Gurave, Namo Shri Gurave, Namo Shri Gurave, Namo Namo. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Sharanye. Prabhu Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Sharanye. Ram Krishna Jaya Jaya Ram Krishna Krishna Jaya Ram Krishna Krishna Jaya 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 Jaya Ram Ram Krishna Jaya Jaya Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Ram Krishna Sharanam, Sharanam. So we thank you all for coming. We appreciate you joining us. And for you at home, we have Swami Vivekanadaji coming. And that's on the second, I believe, second, which is Wednesday. Is that right?
3rd June.
3rd June. I stand corrected. So on the 3rd June, Wednesday, I don't know if you're available to chat for that when Swamiji comes on Wednesday evening. It's the evening we do. He starts, we do the RT at 6 and he starts his talk at 7. So 6:30 would be the chanting if it's possible. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you all so much. Jai Sri Ramakrishna and Jai Swami Vivekananda today. Really want to give our gratefulness. If you think about it, him coming to America in 1893, can you imagine, first of all, there was horrible prejudice here in America. There still is. I'm just saying, back then it was, I mean, person with skin color couldn't go many places. You couldn't stay at certain hotels. You couldn't eat at certain restaurants. You couldn't do all these things. It's just like horrifying. And that's what he came bravely to. And even with all of that going against him, because, you know, he was not a light-colored person. He was a person with, you know, a normal Indian type of a body. And still, he went to the intelligentsia. He didn't kind of start off with all those folks that were arguing about religion. You know, he went to the university and what was it, Harvard, and now there's the room. Somebody took Vivekananda talks about the room where he gave his lectures. And we actually went. I was so blessed that after this was in Chicago, and I was born in Chicago. We had the Parliament of Religions in 1893 that he first gave his lectures to. And then right after, the next lecture was at a Unitarian church in Chicago. And I went to Chicago to be the MC for Swami Vivekanadaji's event he does every year, to fundraiser for the group. And Swami Vivekanadaji was there, and Vivekanadaji, and Siliomi. And we got invited, because I was staying there at the ashrama, we got invited to this Unity Church where he did his first lecture. And it's a beautiful church, even to this day. They're really open to all, you know, people who have good faith. And we did a dinner. We brought food, a plate of Indian food, you know, and they had all of the church members, they cooked something and brought it, and it's just monstrous amounts of food. But they were the openest, kindest people I think I've ever met. Really sweet. And there was a table that Swami Vivekananda, there was a chair, he sat and gave a lecture on the altar there, and there's a table that he actually touched it, so we all placed our hands on it, you know, to get some of the vibes. But it was so beautiful, and to be able to spend time with such beautiful Vivekanadaji and Vivekanadaji, you know, words can't describe. By the way, I'm going to send out a notice, but at the Portland Vedanta Center in October, they're having their 200-year anniversary, or their 100, I think it's a centenary, I think it's a 100 years anniversary. And they're inviting all of the Swamis. So the Vivekanadaji will be there, and Shamanadaji, Devanadaji. So I bought a ticket. I'm going to send this email out to everyone. They have a special price for a hotel room. There's a Hilton there, and it's all together. I think I'll rent a car and I can drive devotees, you know, where they need to go. So, but it's a 3-day event or a 4-day event, and you really get a chance to spend time with the Swamis and ask them questions if you have time. So if you can fit it into your schedule, we'll not have services here because I don't want to, unless, of course, we'll do some RT from whoever can stay around. But if you can go, I'll send out, and Swami Chandrasekharanandaji is the head Swami there, so he asked me to share the invitation with the devotees here. Okay, that's enough. Jai Ma, now let's eat. Thank you for being here and on the videos too.
Here's your phone.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you so much.
I think Pranamji was trying to call you
Really?
from Dakshineshwar.
Again? Oh my God. I wonder what happened. Usually it's one time. That's it.